So I was just going to ask for contributions from other folks who know the Bosch story or different elements of the Bosch story, because it is a big story and one that we started really looking into, talking to Scrumming folks, talking to Joe specifically. At Bain we have a lot of experience doing scaled agile and everything from financial services to consumer products, but I thought for folks here it's fun to have a story that everybody can talk about the name, and a very recognizable name, and one where there's some serious scale at play. So the story of Bosch. Bosch is a company who's been around for a very long time. For folks who don't have as much exposure to Bosch, they've been around since 1886 and really have been known as an innovator. They've always been known as one who is pushing the boundaries and developing the latest and greatest and working in new ways. But what that meant in 1886 and 1915 and 1930 was actually on the left, which is let's innovate to make things in a more standardized, repeatable way. Let's manufacture en masse. And they became really, really good at that. Fast forward, and we're in 2018, and the world has changed. And what innovation means is faster, much more customized, and completely connected. So Bosch plays in a few segments. They play primarily in mobility solutions, so all kinds of technical stuff for cars. They play in some consumer products. They play in industrials, and increasingly they play in the Internet of Things. And now they realize we need to become connected everywhere. Every one of our products needs to be connected to the internet. That's a pretty big task for a company who is not small anymore, but is 400,000 people across 60 countries in the world. But the CEO, Volkmar Denner, realized that agility was going to be critical to making the transformation and critical to continuing to innovate and keep up with the pace of digital. And so initially they said, great, we're going to use innovation for all things, or we're going to use Agile for all things where we need to innovate. And so they created what they called a dual organization, where anywhere that you needed to innovate and create really new, groundbreaking stuff, they were going to use Agile. Then they were going to kind of be business as usual in the rest of the organization. They realized pretty quickly that dual organization was not working. So they said, great, let's fix this. The board, Volkmar Denner, said, we're going to become Agile. So they brought a guy named Felix Hieronymi, who was a software engineer who had participated in a bunch of Agile teams, said, we're the steer co. You, Felix, are running this thing. Make us Agile. Then he started the way typical projects do, which is with a project plan and timelines and a big waterfall plan. And what happened? Same old. Nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. So they said, scrap this. We're actually going to completely change how our steer co runs. From the very, very top, our CEO and our board are going to become an Agile team. We are going to set up a product owner. We are going to have a Scrum master. We are going to be cross-functional and drive to change every single sprint. We are going to prioritize the backlog for the entire organization, which for a company of this size is huge, but that allowed them to focus and say, where is innovation most important? Where do we really need to make change? This steering committee no longer sat behind a big mahogany table and listened as other people presented to them. They got up and they walked and they looked at planning walls and they discussed, and it was this very interactive, exciting new way of collaborating that was led all the way from the very top. Instead of doing annual planning and annual budgeting and leaving those priorities fixed, they realized they needed to change them and be more fluid. So it was now continuous planning, continuous funding cycles. And increasingly what they were able to say is that these are not the barriers, the issues, the impediments that were coming up were not just ones that were happening in one small sector of mobility, which is kind of how the silos had made things seem before, but actually very big cross-functional organizational issues that they could attack. They then also developed this 10 principles and 10 values of how they were going to lead. And some of them you start and we achieve excellence. All right, that sounds like Most companies have that on their corporate values. We live by our values. But then you get down to this, and it's, we create autonomy and remove any obstacles. All right, that's sounding really agile. We learn from mistakes. We're a part of an innovation culture. We prioritize, keep things simple, make decisions quickly. We collaborate across hierarchies and focus on results, openly, frequently communicate, and we seek trust, respect, and empathy. So we at Bain do regular surveys of CEOs across the world. And on our most recent 2017, we asked a set of kind of 20 questions of what are the biggest management trends that you're seeing come out, and they were asked to respond to which of these they're seeing the most. And the very top trend was leaders need to, instead of control, we need to empower and trust. So all but 5%, whatever those 5% of leaders, said that that was a major management trend. So there are a lot of other organizations that are also aspiring to this. So what this has happened is, there's now this kind of trickle down from top leadership into teams, and this is not just in software. Bosch has hundreds and probably thousands of teams operating in Agile within software, but they also have Agile going on in all kinds of really interesting places, collaborating with Tesla, who notoriously operates in Agile itself in many ways. And Tesla has said, okay, great, now here's a partner who can work with us. And in the approach, the way that they're collaborating, they're able to cut development time in half working in this with Tesla. They're working on it in their agriculture unit. This is to develop better ways to grow asparagus. So they're helping asparagus farmers. But they have these teams running, and they're able to develop 10 innovations over the course of 4 weeks, as opposed to their usual one innovation over 6 or 8 months. And then power tools, they've actually set up their whole home and garden unit to operate in Agile teams. And this is totally non-software related. This is people from marketing and a really cross-functional group that's just thinking through what the future of home and garden could look like. So some pretty interesting applications and growing very quickly. So it shows you that even in a company of 400,000, through really embracing Agile values at the top, you can make a big change.